Well, we're blessed to have Cody BoomBoom on the podcast today. I had to coerce him into it. Cody's a stud in this industry, a guy I look up to a lot, and he doesn't know it yet, but we're best friends. I told Sam the same thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, Sam's going to say something about that.
So Cody, if you could kind of introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, what your company's like, and then we got some, we want to kind of go into a segue of your story, how you got into this industry, and so.
Perfect. Yeah. So my name is Cody McBroom. A lot of people call me Cody BoomBoom. BoomBoom's always been my nickname, and that's kind of what developed BoomBoom Performance, which started out as a blog. Actually, I trained people in person for 7 years, and I kind of was just blogging my journey of my own body, my clients, and then that built into doing videos and then Instagram and then a podcast. And eventually people started asking me more and more to coach them that weren't in the state. And that's when I decided to actually go into the online space, which blew up, took over, and now that's what I do full time. So right now I'm an online coach, a content creator. So I have a podcast, videos, everything like that, a membership site for clients as well. So program design and stuff. And I run a team under BoomBoom Performance now. That's kind of my little synopsis in a nutshell. I'm sure we can go a little bit deeper if you'd like to.
Dude, love it. What, you know what, I normally don't do this, but if you could tell people kind of where to find you. So if maybe they're looking during listening to this podcast, your Instagram, your website.
Yeah. So Instagram is at Cody.BoomBoom, and then everything else is BoomBoom Performance. So if you go to boomboomperformance.com, we make sure it's easy to access blogs, videos, podcasts, coaching, everything we offer, all within that. My membership site's there too. So literally everything is just there. And it sounds weird to say Google me, but I'm sure there's nobody else named Cody BoomBoom.
Right.
So I'm sure if you Google that, I'm probably the only person that's going to pop up.
Yep.
You know, my wife said, I listen to your podcast a lot, and she said, has you ever thought about having that, all I want to do is want to zoom, 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 and a boom, boom as you're, and I'm like, and she goes, you really should tell him to. I said, I'll let him know.
That's amazing.
That's hilarious. I've been tagged in or sent videos of like, there's actually way more Boom Boom songs than you could probably imagine. I've been sent them all. There's a wine company. It's actually local in Washington where I'm from. And they make a Syrah, and it's called Boom Boom. And I've been gifted that in the mail from clients, like at least 19 times I've gotten that bottle like from somebody, and they're like, look what I found. And I'm like, have at it. But every time I'm just like, oh my God, thank you so much. But yeah, exactly.
The first time.
It's hilarious. Yeah.
Well, how I originally found you, actually, I found Jason through a Google talk he did on YouTube. And then I went to his podcast, and the first one I happened to listen to was his interview with you. So then I immediately started following you and just dig your content.
Yeah.
I think you tell the truth. I think you break it down, and your thesis really, really is what we believe in. I think it's awesome. So how did you kind of get your start into this industry? For
you weren't always fit, right? I mean, Peter Griffin, is that?
Yeah. Exactly.
What's
right.
Peter Griffin?
So
people call you Peter.
That was like not anymore, but years and years ago, that was like something some of my best friends said to me that just drove me crazy. That's one of those ones where somebody says it to you and you kind of brush it off. You're like, whatever, dude, it's funny, and it just sticks.
Yeah,
it just burns in your brain for years and years. And now I'm like, okay, I see. So for those listening, I flipped off the camera, but yeah. So growing up, I always say I was the black sheep of my family. My dad, mom, brother, all athletic. I was athletic too. Like I played soccer, but I was always chubby, and my family was all very lean, very athletic looking. Nobody in my family has overweight issues at all. And then here was this plump little chubby kid all throughout my life. And once I got into high school, I kind of hit a growth spurt, started leaning out a little bit, was never into sports outside of soccer, was never in skateboarding, was never into the gym, never stepped foot in there. So I was always a little bit chubby, but I was good at soccer, so I was getting by. And then I tore my meniscus, so had surgery, gained some weight, came back senior year to play again, actually made captain of varsity, and then I tore my ACL in the same exact knee in preseason. So then I gained even more weight. And that was like right before I graduated high school, where my friends went to go play college ball. I hung out with a lot of basketball and football players. They left to go play college ball. I was stuck at a community college going to school for business just because my dad just was just like, just do this.
Right. You got to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
Do something, right? I have no direction. And I just gained weight, and I got to a point where I just finally looked in the mirror and was like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? I need to make a change. I'm young. I have so much potential, but I'm just not tapping into it. And I remember kind of having that pep talk with myself in the mirror. And I just went cold turkey on everything I was doing, man, partying and bad food. And I just cut all this junk out of my lifestyle, started trying to get into the gym. And that kind of just manifested into an obsession, to be honest with you. I just found it so intriguing that I actually ended up skipping class one day and going to it was called functional training was the actual class, and there was a course at my school for personal trainers, and I went in there and I actually just fell in love with it, man. Went to the counselor or whatever it was back then, and I forged my dad's signature, changed my degrees, like switched everything. Exactly, right. And at this point I actually wasn't even fit yet. I was still overweight. I just knew what I like. I
Did
just
you
loved
still
this
like
stuff.
cheese at this point?
What's that?
Did you still like your Tillamook cheese at this point?
I still love it. To this day.
She might have been stalking you. All this information.
It's borderline stalking. Yeah.
She did some background work.
Yeah, I
can tell.
That's good.
Sure. I love.
That's why she runs everything for me.
Hey, it's actually really smart, to be honest with you. There's nothing worse than getting on a podcast and not knowing some history.
Exactly.
So who are you again?
Yes.
I respect it. You just happen to be picking out all the bad
I know. I have some good stuff. I have some good stuff.
Hey, that's what she's really good at with me. She just picks out the worst. She's also my sister, so it's a little tricky.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
She
get it.
Brings up all the shit from the past, and I'm like, really?
That was 10 years ago.
So yeah, from there, it just kind of kept developing. You know, I ended up training myself, losing a bunch of weight, getting pretty lean, started helping my friends. Then I actually started the blog back in college. It wasn't BoomBoom Performance yet. It was a different blog, but I started writing for the school newspaper about fitness. And then I ended up scoring an internship as a strength coach at a facility. And that's when I started really getting hands-on with a lot of things. And it just kind of just developed from there.
So how old are you now?
I'm 26.
That's it. Gosh, man. You're doing big things.
I started pretty early. I got that internship when I was 18. So I met this dude. He ran a facility. He was pretty well known in the industry. He was friends with a lot of like up there strength coaches, Eric Cressy, Pavel, like the old Russian kettlebell guys, Dan John, Mike Boyle, like a lot of big names were in the circles of my mentors, which was my college professor and then the guy who owned the gym. So I was being around a lot of smart, older, and just very intelligent strength coaches. None of them were actually nutrition, which was funny. I think when I tapped into nutrition was when I did my first physique competition. And that was when I realized nutrition played such a big role in truly transforming somebody's body. And that's when I kind of shifted not necessarily my entire career, because I still do a lot in training, but that's when I really started shifting my focus to be like, okay, let me lock down this nutrition. Let me go get certified. Let me start teaching people this stuff. And that's how the business really started taking off.
I can relate. That's what I ran into, right? You know, early on, 2005, 2006. I got a job at Bally Total Fitness, and I was a trainer, and I realized I can train these people all I want, but if I'm not helping them with what they're doing the other 23 hours of their day with what they're putting in their mouth, it was like 2 steps forward and a step and a half back, and it was like. So I didn't know you competed in a physique show, like an NPC show.
Yep, just one. It was the typical. Got shredded for stage, loved every minute of it. It was awesome. And then had no plan for afterwards and gained all the weight back. I actually did the worst thing you could possibly do. I had the competition. And then the next day I left on a cruise, literally Mexico for a week. And it was just like all you can eat and drink. Horrible idea after a physique competition. And back then, like this is years and years ago. So reverse dieting wasn't a popular thing or even a thing at all at this point. So I gained a ton of weight back, and that's when I started really learning like, okay, something's not right here. Like what's going on with my body? What's going on with my hormones? How come I can't just bounce back or increase my calories and everything will be fine? And it actually was a blessing in disguise. It was a dark time because as anybody who gets shredded and then gains all that weight back and you can't even see a single ab, you get pretty down on yourself. You know, I wasn't weighing in, I wasn't looking in the mirror. I was avoiding it at all costs, going back to tons of cardio, trying to figure out what was going on. Everything we preach not to do. And that was what caused me to study more, to learn more, to get certified, to dig into research and start really expanding even more. So it's actually a blessing in disguise because I help a lot of people avoid that now.
Nice.
Yeah, that's usually how it works. All the shit I've gone through is what then I can say, hey, I didn't do this right, so let me help you do it better because I've been on the opposite side and it doesn't feel good.
Yeah. And I think that's part of like being a coach is like having that empathy too, knowing what they've been through.
So you got a few people working for you, right? And you got a team you're building um and you do everything online, correct?
Yep, that's correct. I actually work with one single client in person still to this day. And really the reason being is, to be honest with you, it's nice to get out of the house one day a week and still kind of be hands on. And I've trained him for 3 years now. So when I canceled everybody and was going all online, he lives up in the city. He has a gym inside of his condo on the 40th floor. And he was basically just like, hey man, like, I don't want to stop. Like, what's your price? And I was like, I gave it to him and he said yes. And I was like, hey, let's keep going then. And it made it worth it. And it's fun to, like I said, actually still work with people in person. But I don't do a whole lot of it. Mainly everything is online. It's going more and more that direction now that I have coaches that work underneath me because I have to be kind of play that leader role more so than just a coach. But
Right. Well, and just because I'm familiar with your story because I heard on your podcast, I mean, so you sought out mentors and you basically Jason Phillips, is he still your coach or?
yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So Jason's mine now too, and I loved your story that you went to one of his certification courses and basically said, "Hey, you're going to coach me," and he said, "Hey, we don't do that yet," and he said, "Well, let's make it work." Is that how it
Yeah.
went down?
Yeah, literally.
So
So it's fun. I've always just invested in coaching. I just find that, and I mean, that's why I sell it. Like I believe in
right,
it so much.
100%. I agree.
It's the key to in every area of my life too. I've had somebody that kind of guides me through. In all of 2017, I was working with a guy named Steve Krebs, and he was part of the Wake Up Warrior movement, and he dramatically changed my life. And I invested more money than I even knew people did in coaching, like just ungodly amount. And it was kind of scary at first because at the time, at January 2017, over a year ago, like I'm like, I don't know, man. That's a ridiculous amount. I don't think I can swing that. And then my gut just kept telling me to do it. And I was like, fuck it. I'm going to invest. I'm going to commit to at least 3 months. And my life just changed in front of my eyes. And I just continued the whole year. But towards the end of the year, I knew I needed to scale my business. And I was like, who can I seek out that has done what I've done, has what I have, but on a completely different level, has scaled, has brought on a team, has developed a course to certify other coaches, things that I want to do in my career. And I was listening to Renegade Radio, Jason Ferrugia's podcast, and he had Jason Phillips on. And I was like, damn, this guy's pretty interesting. And then I searched his name and I listened to him on Barbell Shrugged. And then I was like, that's crazy. And then he shows up at a seminar in Seattle and speaks on the stage that I was going to. And I had no idea he was going to be there. He was like a last minute guest. And I was like, this is just too weird. So I basically like met him there. He gave me his assistant's information and I basically just bugged her until I could sit down for dinner with him. I was like, hey, like I'll buy the course, I'll get certified, I'll do whatever. Just let me get dinner with Jason. And we got dinner at I don't think it was Master. It was somewhere in Vegas at like 9 p.m. like last minute, and sat down. And that's kind of how this story went. And I was just like, look, like I want to do what you do. I know you can help me. You should just mentor me. And he was like, I don't really do that yet. And I was like, well, what would your price be? And he was like, let me think on it. And he called me a couple days later after I got home. And he's like, let's fucking do it.
Good for
And then,
you.
and now he has a huge mentorship program,
Yep.
which is fucking awesome. I didn't realize that I was the catalyst for that so much. I figured like maybe he has this in the works or maybe he has something different. But then I was at his event in DC and he was like, you guys can thank Cody. Like he really sparked my interest to do this and blah,
Nice.
blah. And I was like, oh shit, like that's wild. So
Well, hey,
it's pretty
thank you for doing that
Yeah.
because already just in the short time I've worked with him, I needed that accountability. I needed a coach to help say, hey, I know to make those hard decisions, to make big pivots, and like that's shit that's not comfortable to do. And it's the same stuff we preach to our clients. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
When I heard that, I was like, no shit. Cody basically told me you're going to coach me. And then it spiraled in. And now, I mean, he's got a huge coaching program. So
Yeah. Well, and it's one of those things too. Like I'm sure it was a matter of time before he did it because it's kind of the evolution of a coach. You know what I mean? You coach, you teach people how to change their body, change their physique, whatever it is. And eventually other coaches are going to ask you how you built your coaching business. And it's the same thing. He did the same thing for me. He bugged me for legitimately probably like 4 or 5 months to start my mentorship program. And he kept telling me to do it. And I kept saying, I don't know if I'm ready, man. Like, like that's not me. Like people don't want to work with me like that. And he just kept bugging me. And I finally was just like, hey, I'm going to start this open. I got 10 spots and I sold it in 24 hours. And I was like, oh shit. Okay. Maybe people do want to learn from me.
For
So
other
now I have a
coaches
mentorship
trying to be
program.
coaches.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's kind of the evolution of everything, right? I think if you're doing a great job at coaching people, the only way you can reach more people and help more people is if you reach other people that can help those people, if that makes sense.
Correct.
So I look at it like a web, right? Like I can only coach so many people at once. Like we have limited amount of time.
Right.
And now I have coaches underneath me that they can coach people, but I can't, I mean, right now I don't have 20 coaches under me. So how can I reach more people? I can help other coaches coach better. So I think it's the evolution of coaching, and he helped me do it just like I helped him, I guess. But it's been a game changer, man. Accountability is the number one thing. We all have the answers. We all have the tools. We all, half the time, we know exactly what we need to do as well. We just don't take action on it. So having somebody that believes in you too and telling you to do it is a really easy way to actually make action steps towards doing it.
I've seen a shift in you, Brad, just since
Right.
Jason has, kind of given him a voice and,
Called me out on my bullshit.
Yeah,
and
he does.
he was like, I don't know how you've been so successful. You're the most unstructured person I've ever met. I'm like, thank you. I appreciate that. You always say a quote. What was the quote with accountability that Cody says?
Oh, this was the best. The accountability is the crutch that makes shit happen.
There you go.
You said that apparently.
You said that in a podcast I listened to this morning.
I love that. I love that. It's weird being quoted, but if you could send me that would be great.
Oh my gosh. I had to type it in my phone immediately. I'm like that because I always tell clients, accountability is what we want the least, but we need the most. I hate saying it over and over, but it is. But you know what? It is the crutch that makes shit happen. You're so right.
There's been times where I look at months period, I mean, for the last couple of years, and I'll be like, man, I spent a lot of money on my personal trainer because I don't write my own programs, my nutrition coach because I don't do my own nutrition, on my business coach because I have somebody help me with that. And I look at all those areas and I'm like, for the last 3 months, they didn't teach me very much. They just made sure I actually did it.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's priceless. I will pay thousands a month to make sure somebody holds me accountable to do the work. And then other months, there's obviously aha moments. And I think a big part of coaching too is not just accountability, but kind of being like the idea guy, right? There's been times where Jason or my old mentor, Steve Krebs, like they will say something to me and I'm like, why the fuck didn't I think of that? Or why haven't I done that yet? It's such a great idea. Like, I feel like I knew I needed to do it.
I just said that to Michelle this morning. I'm like, why the hell didn't I think of that? Like, I'm having like, you have to be an idea guy for being a good mentor. And that's one of my favorite parts about mentoring some of these coaches is because I dissect their business, I dissect their niche, look at who they are. And I'm like, man, this would crush for your business. We need to do this, create this funnel, build this out. And it's like this structured plan. And they're just mind blown. Like, how did you think of that? I'm like, how didn't you think of this? But then when it comes to my business, I'm like, dude, what do I need to do? I don't get it. Right. Like, and somebody has to come and give me the ideas as well. Amen. Well, if there's any potential or wannabe coaches listening to this, hit up Cody BoomBoom and get some mentorship. It would have saved me, had I hired a coach earlier on, it would have saved me a couple years of doing the ups and downs and figuring out like, oh, that was a horrible plan for 9 months. Like that didn't work. And that's awesome. So then you're a new father, right?
Mm-hmm.
I am a new father. Almost 8 months. So in 6 days, awesome. 8 months.
Yeah. Your child is beautiful. I'm quite jealous. Me and my wife are
Thank you, man.
attempting to have one. It's not working well. But
Congratulations.
How has that played into the role of I think about just being able to build such an impactful online business. And because I know a little bit behind the scenes from just talking to Jason, like what you've done in the course of over a year is pretty remarkable. Like you've built something really impactful and you help a lot of people. Like you have a lot of respect and you have a big Instagram following. And the minute I reached out to you on a DM, you sent me one back.
Yep.
And like you can't replace that. And it was the same shit with Jason. I hit him up one day, boom, got a response back. And like that I respect about you. You always get back to people. But yet I hear on podcasts, like you've got some strict time blocking that you do to be with your family and your child. Like, yeah, props, man. Like I'm 8 years older than you and I cannot figure that shit out.
Yeah. Some insight would be awesome.
It's taken me some time and some periods of a lot of unbalanced I guess just no balance whatsoever. Right. And I always kind of say like balance is bullshit. Like I think that no matter what, you can't have a perfectly even balance. There's always going to be more energy in one area of your life, no matter what. If I'm putting more area in my life towards my business for a certain period of time, some of my personal shit is going to take a hit. My training might take a hit. Like I just did a photo shoot and a lot of my energy went into that and my content took a hit. I couldn't produce as much. Like I couldn't go do as many social things, but that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. But I'm literally I learned to just be OCD with my Google Calendar. Like it really is the secret behind it all because I I used to train in a facility from 3 p.m. till like 7 or 8 p.m. every single day, Saturday mornings as well. And then in the mornings from 5 a.m. till 1 p.m., like right before I'd eat and go to the next gym, I was on my online business trying to create it. So it's just no balance whatsoever. Work all day, come home, like time with my fiance was hanging out in bed for 10 minutes before I crashed, fell asleep because I was so exhausted. But she supported me through that. Once we found out we were having a baby, I knew I had to make a decision because I was like, I'm not going to be that dad that's just never home. My dad was that way. And it was like, that was just a non-negotiable. So for me, the biggest catalyst was having a baby. I'm not telling anybody, listen, to go have a baby and you'll be successful. It's not my exact advice. It works. But I went all in on me. I basically found that out and I quit the gym. It was a respectful transition. I gave up all of my clients. So I was starting 100% from scratch online. I did have like a roster of clients online. So I wasn't going from like money to completely broke, but it was a scary shift because that was security. That was guaranteed income, guaranteed leads coming to me, guaranteed everything. I was getting paid to write blogs. Like it was not easy, but it was there and it was simple. So the big thing was going all in on what I needed to do to create my business and just do me. And at that point, I just looked at my schedule and I was like, I have this huge time block. Like, what can I do to maximize every single minute of every single day? And part of that meant maximizing my time with my family as well. So I talked to Shannon, my fiance at the time, and we're planning the wedding. So we've had a long engagement, but I basically was like, what needs to be my cutoff? Like, what do you need from me? What time do I need to be invested in you and my daughter and everything in the future? And she said, I need you done by 5 p.m. And I was like, I can agree to that. That meant I had to wake up at 5 a.m. and I had to fit as much shit as I could between 5 and 5. So I think that, and being, again, OCD about that is honestly the key to anybody being extremely productive and producing way more content. And now with online businesses, content is the game. Like the more content, the more volume, and the more you can relate inside that content. So when people read it, they feel it, the more successful you're going to be, because that's how we reach people. That's how we help people. And that's how people trust us enough to actually coach them through a process. So for me, it was like, okay, at 5 a.m., I wake up, I have an hour of personal time. And then it was just call, blog, post, program design, like eat, right back to the grind. And it was just hour after hour, 30 minute after 30 minute. If there was a blank space, what could I fit in there? And it's just like one thing after another. And for a while it was chaotic trying to figure that out. And I hired an assistant. She took over my schedule and I don't touch it now. And it's been a game changer because she helped me out a ton. But it sounds, to some people it sounds chaotic because I'm just always busy, but I kind of get a rush out of it, man. It's I'm just nonstop all day. And then it hits 5 p.m. and I can just unwind.
Are you able to shut it off and spend time with Shannon and your daughter? And
that's the hard part. And I'm not going to sit here and bullshit and lie and say that like I'm 100% present all the time. It's hard to put your phone away. It's hard to, like, part of it is I run an online business. So even if I want to look at my phone to Google something, there's notifications going off and I'm like, okay, well, let me check this one. And then next thing you know, you're answering DMs or emailing people back. So it's hard. I had to learn different little hacks, like leave my phone on the kitchen counter or turn off all my notifications basically all the time. So the only way I can see emails or DMs or Facebook or any notification, I have to physically go into the app. It won't notify me otherwise. Put my phone on do not disturb. Shannon's good about making sure I'm pretty on point. She's on me, which I appreciate. But
good for her.
Sounds like
it's
my
tough.
wife.
Yeah, you need a strong woman like that to keep you in check. But it's definitely the hardest part about it for sure.
Well, I think it goes back to that you put some boundaries in place. And when I look at working with clients, I tell them to time block out the gym. You say you don't have time, you do. We need to put it into your schedule. And then they consistently just keep like budging on the, like, and I think the more you time block stuff out and then you just go back on it and then you'll okay, I'll budget this one time. It sounds like you've got pretty set boundaries though that you try to adhere to and for the most part do well in. And I think that's the key. You can time block anything out, but if you're just gonna override your own boundaries, what's the point?
That's exactly why. And there's gotta be kind of like, to me, if I see a reminder go off and I blow it off, that means I'm letting down my family, my team, my clients. Like, to me, there's a deeper purpose behind it. So I don't skip reminders. I don't skip time blocks because I'm committed to that. So I think there has to be a deeper internal why or purpose behind it.
Mm.
But I also think people need to kind of tweak it to themselves. Like, in this game, like, we can all play it however we want, right? Like, it's kind of like I always tell people, Sunday is like, it's a hard day for me to do a rest day because blah, blah, blah. And I'm home and I'm like, hey, then work out on a fucking Sunday and take Wednesday as a rest day. Like, the typical Sunday rest day has to be rest day. And it's the same thing with business, right? For me, Monday is when I get the most emails from clients updating me. So I don't do anything but emails. We don't do podcasts. We don't do content. We don't do calls. I don't do jack shit except email clients back all day. Tuesday, I have my day section off, half email, half content. Wednesday, I don't do any emails. I don't do any calls. It's all content. Thursdays, I do podcasts. Friday, I do calls. Sunday is like a checkup day. So I actually do like 3 to 4 hours of email checkup and just kind of getting ahead of the curve. And the reason I did that is because now Sunday evening, I can take care of some stuff so I don't feel overwhelmed on Monday morning coming into a crazy week. But then also allows me to take 4 hours off on Wednesday. So in the middle of the week when I'm burnt out, yesterday, I'm off at like 12, 1 o'clock, and I can spend the rest of the day with my family. So we went and looked at new houses. We went and gave kids candy, and it was like cool to be able to get off. Now Thursday, I'm fresh. I can get back to content and producing. So my work week is kind of weird in a sense that it's jambled and just different, but that's what works for me. And I think that's what people need to learn how to do is tweak shit to make it work for you. It's just like dieting, right? There's no right diet. You got to make it adherent to you. So, yeah, it's been a learning curve. I've definitely tweaked my time blocks and changed my schedule. I don't know how many times over the year just to try to figure out what works. And it seems like I finally found a rhythm.
You gave some really good pivot points there too that I wanted to go into, and one of them was kind of what's your why? Like, what is your why behind this? Like, why do you coach people? Why do you try to stay shape? We did this whole podcast last week on like figuring out what the fuck your why is. Like, why are you doing this? If you don't know it, then what's the point?
Yeah, I think for me now, there's a couple different things. I think it changes over time too. But at
Absolutely.
first it was I grew up overweight, insecure, lacked confidence. I couldn't do
Same
pull-ups
story.
in recess.
Yep.
So for me, it was like, okay, I remember that feeling. I just don't want other people to go through that. And I want people to know that they're not alone in it. So to me, it was like the best way for me to do that is to spread my message and help people avoid that. So for a long time, my why was just that. When I had my daughter, it definitely changed because my why became for her. And I think that fueled my business as well because and I think there's a lot of coaches and a lot of trainers that are afraid to talk money. They're afraid to talk about sales. They're afraid to talk about like wanting to make more money because we're here to quote unquote help people. Well, the more money you make, the more people you're helping because what you sell is guidance. So to me, every dollar means I'm helping more people. I'm reaching more people. I can invest back into my business to, again, expand that reach even more. And I think once I had my daughter, I kind of tapped into that ability a little bit more because I was like, I need to provide. And it fueled me. And then I realized like, okay, we added X amount to our monthly revenue and we have this many more clients. We're getting this many more hits on our website and on our podcast, which means the more I make, the more people I reach and the more people are benefiting from this and reaching out to me and they're saying I'm helping them. So back to the why, it's definitely a combination of like trying to help people avoid, for lack of better terms, a shitty life. I did not enjoy a life that was overweight, that was sweating, walking up a block and just uncomfortable in my body, avoiding the lake, being unconfident. I want to help people avoid that. And then behind the business at the same time is like my daughter fuels everything.
That's awesome. I can relate. I was the kid that like they'd invite me to go swimming and I'm the kid wearing the black t-shirt, like, and it's 100 goddamn degrees outside. And I'm like, I'm good.
Really?
I'm good. Yeah. Yeah, I was
I
overweight.
wouldn't expect that from you, man.
Yeah. That's how I got into this. I was taking my bike to Barnes and Nobles when I was like 15 years old because that was like when AOL still had a CD that you had to put in.
Yeah.
But I was just fascinated by it, and that's when I got into it. And I wasn't like bullied in the fact of just shoved in lockers, but I was picked on by my friends, and I was like in the cool group, but they were like, "Oh, Jensen will eat it. He's fat." Like, and I'll eat the pizza, and then I'd proceed to eat the pizza because they'd call me fat, and so I'd eat it anyway, And it sucks. It doesn't feel comfortable. So I can relate with your story
Exact
a
same
lot.
situation as me, man.
Yeah.
Exact same situation as me.
Yeah. That's why we connected. That's why I'm like, I
Yeah,
like
that's
this guy.
awesome.
He gets it.
Yeah.
He's been on the other side. So transitioning into, you talked about like one diet doesn't fit all. And I like that because I think a lot of times, you know, you believe in more of a macro based approach, correct? As a whole, or
Yep.
but that doesn't
Yeah, I
mean
think
anything
it's
else doesn't have an application. And I get so kind of like people in the industry, especially here in Utah, they're, you know, oh, this sucks or that sucks. I'm like, for what application? How do you know it sucks? Maybe it sucks for you. Maybe it's not right for everybody, but like keto doesn't suck or this
yeah.
doesn't suck. And that's what we do as macro based. But
I think that application and what's practical is really individual. So I have at least a handful of clients on me personally, and I know my coaches do too, that are very habit based, have nothing to do with macros, right? We're not tracking at all. I
what
have
do you mean by
a
that?
couple people that,
Do you just
yeah,
focus
so
more
I
on the coaching end? Like just like what's going on with your sleep, your bio?
100%. Yeah. So all coaching, all proper food selection, good habits. How do you feel? How are you training? Are your portion size proper? Very like precision nutrition style coaching,
Right.
and very interactive, because what they need is not a macro prescription. They need accountability. They need somebody to support them. They need somebody to give them some answers and answer some questions, but they don't necessarily need to carb cycle or figure any of that out. And I think it depends too on, I mean, what's your age, what's your demographic, what's your goal, right? Like I was on the phone with a guy today who's getting into coaching. He's actually a pro lacrosse player. 100% we're doing macros because I need him to perform at an optimal level. He needs to be a certain weight and conditioning, like completely different. I'm not going to go the habit approach with him. So we have a very mixed clientele, but I think it's all just what's practical to the person. So when I first get somebody on board, we actually go through an interview process and ask them a ton of questions because I want to kind of read the personality type and figure out like maybe macros are the right way to go with you. Maybe they're not. We have a couple clients that are on keto because of some autoimmune related stuff, and it's working great with them. I have another person that's strictly elimination. Macros would overwhelm her, but she had some autoimmune related issues as well. So we did an elimination protocol. Worked really well. She's losing a ton of weight on top of it. So it's just so person to person different, you know. And then there's always the clients too that they come to me and they're like, hey, I want to get extremely lean, but I don't want to track macros for the rest of my life. And I'm like, I get it. My job is not to try to coach you for the rest of your life. My job is to teach you enough so when we're done, you can go do this on your own, realistically. So for me, it's like, let's take you to the peak of the mountain, and the peak of the mountain is your pinnacle results. On the way, we are going to learn how to track macros, cycle those macros, adjust those macros, and teach you everything you need to know to become very self-aware and get you to the body fat level you want to get to. Once we get to the top of the mountain, it's about maintaining that while slowly getting out of macro tracking. So maybe you're just doing calories and protein, and then you're doing calories and protein once a week, and then just calories, right? And we kind of slowly fade away from this until they're at a point where they're comfortable doing it on their own.
And they've learned to become intuitive,
coach,
correct?
100%. And that's the thing is like, I think a lot of coaches, we can't expect people to be with us forever. So I tell people on the first call, I'm like, hey, I want you to sign up with us, but my job is to get you a result and teach you how we get there, because sooner or later, whether it's in 3 months or 12 months, you're going to leave at some point. And I'd rather just acknowledge that and teach you how we're doing what we're doing. So you can, in 2-3 years, message me and be like, hey, I still have the results you helped me get. And that's why I do this, right? That's what matters most to me. And I actually think that's what helps the business too, is because a lot of people are afraid to say that on their first call, because it's like, okay, you're anti-selling me on the first sales call. And I think it sounds asinine, but now that I've helped enough people, I think it works really well because people actually trust me and they know I'm in this for the right reasons.
Right. I tell clients I have the worst business model because my model is actually to work myself out of having you as a client at some point.
Right.
But also I'm from a selfish perspective and a bit like as far as a business, like revenue perspective, I understand that if I can help you get the achieved results, but not only that, keep them, maintain them, learn how to live this lifestyle, like you're going to send your friends to me. Like I'm going to get more referrals. I don't want your money continuously over years. I want your friends and family and coworkers. And if I can help get you those results, I probably have a better chance of getting those referrals. So
100% agree. 100%.
And I love what you said, that it's a longevity program with you. I mean, I think that 8-week or 12-week programs are pigeonholes because like to get to what desired result, and then can you really learn how to, can't expect someone to just know in 12 weeks or however many weeks to learn how to be intuitive and track on their own. Like all these things that go, You work with clients for 6 months, and what's your average?
Yeah.
Well, it really depends.
Yeah.
Now we have on our coaching, we have a minimum 3-month commitment. So no matter what, everybody's with us for at least 3 months. But it really depends on the person, man. Like I have clients who it's like I have a wedding and we're a month and a half, and I'm like, okay, let's do as much as we can in a month and a half, and then just try to sustain that, and then they're gone in 3 months. I have some athletes that are like, hey, I just need help figuring out how to perform better. So we spend 3 months just trying to dial in for performance, and then by the time 3 months hits, it's like, do you know what to do now? You can kind of just go do this on your own. And then I have clients who we get to the result in 3 months. They got to stay for 6 though, to be able to actually learn how to maintain that. And then I have clients that I've been with for over a year now, because it's more than just nutrition for them. It's training program design that they don't have to worry about. It's accountability. It's a friendship. It's a different look and feel and experience. So it's hard to say what we have. I need to look in statistics and see what we actually have the most of.
Oh, I couldn't. If you asked me the same question, I couldn't answer you.
I couldn't answer. But,
like, I mean, a minimum of 12 weeks is the same, but I tell people, like, probably to get to where we need to be, and like for you to actually learn how to maintain that and like go through life ups and downs and like learn how to just keep this as your base, it's probably going to take longer than that. But
yeah, I would say our average is at least 6 months, but yeah, it depends.
So what do you think is the biggest thing holding clients back? Like, I mean, what in your, like with your clients, what's the one thing that seems to hold them back from getting their desired results or their, you know, whatever it is? That's a loaded question. I understand.
It is a loaded question. I have a couple things that bounce around in my mind. I mean, obviously I want to say consistency, but I think consistency is such a blanket statement, like what's making you inconsistent, but everybody struggles with consistency. I think people lack the ability to commit fully. Like I see a lot of people that are kind of half-assing it or dipping their toes in the water. They're never jumping all the way in. And whether that be like a training program, a nutrition plan, tracking macros, commit to the process, commit to a time frame, commit to actually implementing these action steps into your lifestyle, and just be 100% about that versus letting everything else distract you. There's so much white noise out there. So a lot of people just get too distracted with everything. And then I think a lot of people struggle with the ability to do the work. Like they just won't go all in. They won't sacrifice anything else. They want this result so bad, but they're not willing to remove XYZ out of their life or put more focus here. Or we talk about that balance thing, like let a little bit of your balance be in this department for a little bit so you can actually achieve the body and the health that you want, and let the other things take the back burner for the little bit. Obviously, like family is one of those things to me where you have to keep a minimum amount no matter what. But I think at the end of the day, I think a lot of people just struggle to actually put in enough effort into actually doing the work. They're just like, I don't know if it's difficulty, if it's sacrifice in other places, but I see that a lot. Like, we want a result, but they're not willing to just go all in.
For sure. I see a lot of the clients that come in, since I run the front end. I see everyone's clients that come in, right? And a lot of clients, it seems like to me, and I don't know how you feel about this, but they kind of complicate the process. That they'll say to me, well, how do I go to a party and not eat that? Well, you just don't. Maybe you eat before you go.
Or learn how to fit it in.
Learn how to fit it in. So if you knew that party was coming up, maybe you should adjust macros around that. Well, how do I? It's almost like they want these. I'm not a nutrition coach, but they want these coaches to do all the work for them as far as like figuring it out.
Just go to the party with them. Just hold their hand and be like, okay,
a lot of them joke
so
about
cake
that.
is bad.
Yeah.
Beer,
yeah,
probably not good. I'm like, it's just not.
They joke about that.
But
I
it's
need
a
Brad
mindset.
to go with.
You're right. They're not all in, because if they were all in, it wouldn't be that complicated for them. Like it's this shift of like, why can't I just eat kind of like, why can't I kind of follow this and see good results? It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, exactly. In some people, it's that like all in or nothing at all, right? So it's like, well, like, I don't know, are they going to do hamburgers or hot dogs at the barbecue? And I don't know what kind of beer they're going to be drinking. So fuck this. I'm just going to eat whatever. And then tomorrow I'll get back on. Like I'm going to, I got a ticket to the Drake concert out here for my birthday recently. And so I'm going to that tonight.
Hopefully
I'm going to drink beer, but I don't know what kind of beer they have. I don't know what kind of food we're going to eat before, but I know I'm probably not going to follow my macros. So today, instead, I'm just going to leave some extra room, and it won't be perfect.
Exactly.
And that's okay. Part of flexible dieting isn't necessarily like being able to fit the exact macros of a Pop-Tart into your calories every day. It's the ability to adjust your meals, eat on the go, eat more protein in one meal versus the other, save your carbs for night, have a beer here and there, estimate how much this measures or weighs, or there's so many different things that are part of flexible dieting that people forget about, that I think in those situations that you were referring to, I think they get overwhelmed that it's not perfect. And then therefore they just don't do any of it at all. And it's like, just guesstimate. It's not that hard.
Right. And if you guys have any questions, like the difference between an if it fits your macros approach and a flexible dieting, check out Cody's. You made a post on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
Broke it down real simple. And then you can go to his website, I'm sure, for even more content, but it's not the same thing. A flexible dieting approach. Anyway, just go check it out. Because some people, you know, as a company have gotten a lot more flexible as of recently, just realized it's just like these set structured plans just weren't working for people. And like I had this big shift. And since I've done that, we've seen a bigger success. And I think that some people get confused on, I'm like, no, you don't get to eat like a donut every single day. And just because it fit in your macros, you think somehow that's going to give you the exact same results as if that donut was oatmeal. I'm like, so like, let's break this down a little more. And you do a great job of breaking it down. Like phenomenal on that whiteboard. I'm impressed. I got to get better on the whiteboard skills. It just goes.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. Yeah, we did a video on the beginner's guide to flexible dieting, and I talked about that exact concept. You know, like people technically, if you want to fit Oreos into your diet every day, like you might get leaner, but your health is going to deteriorate. Your hormones are probably going to have some issues. Your performance is going to go to shit. Your gut health's not going to be well. So we try to look at it like the 90-10 rule. 90% of your diet is still whole foods. But I think people forget that, again, going back to like what part of flexible dieting is you being able to choose ground turkey instead of chicken breast, or a steak instead of olive oil and chicken, because there's a fat and protein combo. Like the old school bodybuilding, and this is exactly what I did when I got on stage. I've been through it. I've done that. It's very strict. Here's 4 proteins you can
7 ounces of tilapia, and yeah.
Exactly. Right. So it's very strict. So part of flexible dieting is saying, you know, we're going to strive to eat whole food still. It's just that you can eat whatever ones you want. It's like, do you like 3 meals or 6 meals? Okay, 4, perfect. That's flexible dieting. Do you want to intermittent fast every once in a while? Cool. That's flexible dieting. Oh, you like dairy? That's fine. Go ahead and eat it, right? And then every once in a while, like last night it was Halloween. Damn right I had some candy, but it fit into my macros. And because I'm flexible with this, I actually didn't binge and eat the whole bowl of candy. I actually literally ate like 2 fun-sized pieces and was like, I'm good. I'm done. Like I got my little fix. I had it. It was cool. And no worries, right? But when we restrict ourselves for a long period of time, we go to that bowl and we'll smash the whole thing because we've been restricting and we've been waiting for our chance, as if the food's going to grow legs and run away from us or something. And we go all in. So I think people very much misunderstand flexible dieting. And the last part on that is what we do is have a micronutrient checklist. So if somebody is going into a flexible approach, it's like you can have what you need or what you want to fit in, quote unquote. But before you do that, do you have the amount of greens that we require? Do you have your fiber? Did you get some omega-3 fat source? Did you get your water intake, sodium intake? Like we look at all these macronutrients and micronutrients, and it's like, as long as you can check the boxes off, now you can be flexible with whatever's left. So I think that's a really helpful thing for a lot of people out there.
You brought up intermittent fasting, and actually we had some questions from people who knew you were going to be on the podcast who would listen to yours. What is your thoughts on intermittent fasting? You did a great podcast. They listened on the plane, so thank you. I always appreciate material on the plane. I was actually coming back from Chicago from going to that NCI cert, and I listened to your story podcast when you talked about what we mentioned before with Jason, and I was like, God damn, that's exactly why I just went. I didn't need another certification. I mean, it never hurt. I went because I'm like, I've got to get in this guy's inner circle. Little did I know I could have just kind of applied for the business coaching end, but like I met him and like I was like, hey man, I got to get with you. Let's do this. And he's like, hey, come to the mastermind. I said, when? He said, next weekend. I said, no, the 1-day thing in San Diego. So I had to go there. But I just I knew I had to surround myself with the right people. And like already, like I got you on a podcast. It's the guy I look up to and respect. Like you got to surround yourself with the right people. But that podcast you talked about with intermittent fasting, where you talked about, building muscle on intermittent fasting and the pros and cons. And so if you guys go check out, I don't remember what episode number it was. It just says intermittent fasting, correct?
Probably. I can't remember either.
Yeah,
There's so many now.
Michelle probably has it in her head. She probably got it all.
This is false.
She's like episode 94.
I did my homework, yes.
23
But talk a little
minutes
bit about that. What are the pros and cons of intermittent fasting? What do you like about it? What are some things people need to be careful of? And then we can.
Yeah. Before I do, I just have to commend you on doing that. And like to anybody listening, whether it's me or anybody else, just reach out. Like there's so many times where people do not ask for help, whether it's business or relationships, or they want to lose fat or build muscle, or they're just struggling with their nutrition, and they just never ask for help. And I think it's an ego thing, but man, like every time I've seen big growth, it started with me asking somebody for help and reaching out and just being like, well, fuck it. Worst case, they don't reply. And there's been authors of books, people in the industry that I've reached out to, and they responded. And I was like, holy shit, they actually responded to me. And it helped me do something so powerful in my life. I grew up a skateboarder, so I like fanboyed over this. But I hit up a pro skateboarder his DM who has almost 1 million followers the other day, and was like, yo, I would love to get you on the podcast, man. It'd be such a great podcast because you're an entrepreneur now and you're doing these other things. And he was like, dude, I'm down. Let's do it. And I was like, whoa, that's wild. Like he fucking responded. So now hopefully I'm trying to link up with him. We're going back and forth in email. But inside my brain, it was saying, dude, he's not going to respond. Why are you even wasting your time? But then I just said, fuck it anyway. So commend you for doing that, man. But everybody listening, go do that, dude. Like there's somebody that can help you out there with something in your life. Go ask for help. But intermittent fasting. I think intermittent fasting is a great tool for anybody who needs to build adherence to a calorie deficit. I think that's really the bottom line. I think that's the biggest benefit from it. They actually did a study where and this is the first study they've ever done on trained individuals, where they actually did a 16-hour, 8-hour eating window, like kind of a lean gains approach for intermittent fasting. And they saw no differences in the two groups. I think like the intermittent fasting group lost a little bit more fat, but they were also in a 250 calorie deficit more than the other group, which shows us that really it was just a caloric intake thing. Most of the studies are coming out that intermittent fasting for health benefits like insulin sensitivity, growth hormone, digestion, gut health, thyroid, things like that are going to be in the window of like 20 to 36 hours of fasting, which means that it's something that we do at the most once a week, more like twice a month, once a month, something like that. And it's a long periods of time. And even these people that do these time restricted feedings where they're getting extremely good benefits, if you ask them, they're doing like, some of them are doing 72-hour fasts. So you're going days without food.
Wow.
But they do it once a month, once every 3 months. So it's not something I use for fat loss very often, unless I have somebody that struggles to adhere to a caloric deficit. So if I have a busy individual who hates waking up early to eat breakfast and chooses the bagel and cream cheese because he's not prepping his breakfast, I'm going to be like, hey, do you want to skip breakfast and just have coffee? Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's do that. So he intermittent fast. He has more calories to play with in the evening, which helps him be social at dinner with his family. And because of that, intermittent fasting is like the best approach for him to lose fat, but it has nothing to do with the method or the hormonal benefit or anything like that. It's really just, this is his lifestyle and it works much better. 100%. So it really depends. As far as like fasted training, I do think there is some studies that actually show us fasted cardio may not have been just a bro thing. I think it actually may be beneficial.
Bro, have you done your fasted?
Yeah,
such a bro thing.
It's been a bro science thing for a while, but there's a lot of studies that show it actually doesn't burn more calories than fed cardio. But what it does do is it allows your body to tap into a process of actually being able to use fat as fuel. So you're not necessarily going to burn more fat the first time you do it, but if you continually do your cardio fasted, you might actually allow your body to be more metabolically flexible to burn more fat in the future. So I think it's good for that reason. And then I've also talked to a lot of CrossFitters and high performance athletes that seem to have better oxygen consumption fasted in the morning without food. So if they're doing an aerobic workout or like high intensity cardio intervals with no lifting, we'll probably do it fasted because they'll be a little bit faster inside their Metcon or their aerobic work. But yeah, man, I think it's really just it goes back to what you said at the very beginning. It's what's practical, what's applicable to that person. Maybe intermittent fasting, maybe not. I personally love eating breakfast, so I never fast, but it's really person to person.
What about strength training fasted?
I'm not a big fan. I think that I believe that, like there's a ton of studies to show strength training in general, especially bodybuilding specific or CrossFit specific. It's very glycolytic. And if you're in a completely fasted state, you're actually at that 16-hour mark, you're actually already your body's trying to produce ketones. So you're not tapped into what's going to provide for that fuel session. I also believe there's a joint inflammation effect too, where you're not necessarily inflamed, but I do not find that my joints are as capable when I'm fasted. Like when I have a good meal, when I have water, when I have something solid in me, my joints feel a lot better. And I find that same thing with a lot of clients. There's, the studies go back and forth, and there's a lot of people that say it doesn't matter. I personally find in my experience with all my clients, and I give them the option, whatever you want to do to stay consistent, they just feel better. They lift heavier when they have food in their stomach. So to me, I'm like, whatever's going to allow you to have more weight on the bar or do more reps or just have more total volume, that's going to be the best answer for you. I've had a couple people over the years say like, I do way better fasted, and I say, okay, but 90% it's always fed.
Well, it goes back to even, talking about, is fat, is morning training better, strength training better in the morning because of your cortisol curve. I heard you're in Sam's podcast, and, I train at night. Like I find, I with some more meals in me, I'm definitely more efficient, and that's what worked better for me. And I get the question all the time from clients, what's the best time to train? I'm like, whenever you can be most effective, like let's fucking do it.
100%. Yeah. And I train at about like 3:30, 4 p.m. And it's for the same reason. Like I've had 2 or 3 meals in me. I've been awake all day. I've been moving. I've gone on a couple walks. Like I feel way better. If I wake up first thing in the morning, I'm stiff, I'm tired, my back is sore. Like I just need to like open up and be awake for the whole day. So they've actually done studies on this, and this is where I think people get twisted too. They did a study that showed 4 p.m. to be the perfect time to train. And it was, I think, because your joints were more opened up, your spine had less compression in it. You've had multiple meals, you're more hydrated, but the percentage of like the performance percentage that was increased at 3 p.m. versus 12 p.m. or 10 a.m. was so small, but it was significant enough for them to say that it's the best time. So people read the title, the best time to train is 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. And they take that and they're like, I have to train at this time. It's like, no, man, it's so small. It's splitting hairs. You need to train with whatever time works best for you. If you could sleep at night, train at 9 p.m. I don't give a shit. I used to train at 9 p.m. in our workouts back in the day when I was interning for this Slovenian strength coach, Luke Hosvar. He's a madman in the gym. We used to train till like midnight some days, and we'd go to a diner and eat our post-workout meal, and I'd be home at like 1 a.m. But I'd sleep in till freaking 11, and it was fine. My body was healthy. My performance was good. There was no issue with it. It fit my lifestyle. Is that productive for most people? No. I was an 18-year-old intern, and it worked really well for me at the time. Nowadays, there's no way I could do it, but it worked for me. And I think that's the key, right? Like what works for you, let's go with that.
I think that's another thing of complicating the process. People start to go, well, but my meal's at this time. I can't go to the gym
because I've got to eat. Your meal.
Adjust your meal to when you can get your ass to the gym.
Yeah, exactly. And even that, like the difference between eating an hour before and 3 hours before is so minuscule that it doesn't even matter. It's like,
I'm glad you said that. My clients think they have to time this just right. I'm like, you're not feeding off just that meal.
No, it's your body stores carbs as glycogen, and that's stored for up to 24 hours before you're even using it. So really the meal before is more of like a mental thing. It's a digestion thing. It's a small amount of energy to actually like mentally and nervous system wise get you going. But your muscles, the glycogen from your muscles being worked, that's last night's meal. You know what I mean? So I always tell people too, like the biggest thing that you should be worried about with eating before you train is digestion and mental clarity. If you know that when you eat a carb heavy meal, you kind of like get in a mental fog an hour later, don't eat an hour before your workout. Like watch your digestion, watch your mental clarity. For me, I eat like 3.5 hours before my workout because by then I'm fully digested. My mind is clear again. I'm actually starting to get a little hungry again. So I train right then and then I have dinner afterwards. That's what works for me. It's trial and error.
Yeah. Yep. Do you do any highly branched cyclodextrin to work out?
I do. Yeah. I was actually going to mention that with, fasted. If I ever have to train fasted, I'm drinking highly branched cyclodextrin. And you actually get a crazy pump when you're fasted and you drink that right before workout.
Really?
But yeah, it's already quick in your bloodstream. But I'm a big fan of it. I think that there's science that shows it helps blunt cortisol levels. There's John Meadows had a presentation where he showed some information about HBCD actually helping build, and they showed cross-sectional muscle tissue growing from that had the highly branched cyclodextrin intra/post-workout with essential amino acids. So I'm a fan of it. It comes down to your caloric intake. If I have somebody that has room for it, I'm like, let's do it. If I have somebody that's like struggling to hit their calories, the last thing I'm going to do is say, drink 25 grams of carbs in your calories, right? I want you to eat whole food. Just to, again, goes back to adherence. What can you adhere to? But I have guys that are like, I'll do anything to put on muscle, and I have 400 grams carbs to play with. Hell yeah, we're doing Halle-Brand Dextrin because it's just too advantageous not to.
I agree.
Yeah.
So, dude, I could sit here and chat with you all day.
I know.
Like literally, just keep going down rabbit holes with you. Tell us about this new book you got.
Which the book I just launched, the ebook?
Yeah.
Functional Muscle 2. So that's it's actually a training program. So it's an ebook training program. I launched Functional Muscle 1 in February of 2017 as like my first training program available for the public. And my goal with that was actually to supply a cheap way to use my training systems. Like let's give these people so they're not doing dumb shit in the gym, for lack of better terms. Like I want people to have an intelligent program with progressions built in. It's functional. Your joints are going to be safe. You're going to build muscle, burn fat, whatever your goal is. And they can afford to do it without hiring a coach. I also did it because I had a lot of nutrition coaching clients that couldn't afford to do training and nutrition with me, but they really needed help with training. So my new thing was like, if you do nutrition with me, I will give you functional muscle for free because I want you doing good training. And I mean, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people started getting it and DMing me and tagging me. And I was like, man, this is kind of cool. Like people are actually getting it. So this month I launched Functional Muscle 2.0, which is basically just the advanced version of it, which is, it's not the, like some people were asking, do I need to do Functional Muscle 1 to do it? And that's not the case. It's a standalone program. It's just more advanced. It's more of a hypertrophy based program. I use a lot of different methods to elicit the change. So there's a lot of different intensity techniques, muscle building techniques. I dig into the science before I get into the program. So I teach the people why we're doing these methods, what the different methods are, what are the things that actually cause muscle growth, right? Like muscle damage, mechanical tension, metabolite accumulation. Like we go through these processes in the book, and then I show them where they're at inside the book. And then there's obviously the program, which is a 5-day split. So it is a little more advanced because number 1 was a 4-day split, but Functional Muscle 2 is a 5-day split. It's a push, pull, rest, push, pull legs, or I'm sorry, upper, lower, rest, push, pull legs. So there's 2 strength days or speed, depending on the week you're on. And then there's 3 hypertrophy days per week. So it's a high volume program, but it's a masterpiece, dude. I'm really proud of it. It turned out really good.
Jason did an email blast, kind of promoting your book. He also capped on your name that you called it Functional Muscle 2.
I know.
I know. He
Really
says
clever.
He's not very clever with names. How do people go about getting that?
I mean, if you go to boomboomperformance.com/products, everything's there. So all my ebooks. So it's on my Instagram, it's on my website. But yeah, if you go to boomboomperformance.com/products, I have all my ebooks on there.
Well,
some
shit,
of them are
I'm gonna
free,
buy
and some
it.
of them
Yeah.
are purchased.
I'm gonna buy it.
You would
Good.
like the program, man. It's really, really good. It's a good one for people who, especially those who like bodybuilding style training, but need to get out of the rut of only doing bodybuilding training, which I've fallen into plenty of times. Because it's really good about cycling through speed and power work. It's good about cycling through specific strength work, but it never takes out the specific bodybuilding work, which is really cool.
Awesome. I'm going to check it out. And I suggest all you listeners check it out too. We had a couple questions on the Instagram. I know you got to go, but one gal just asked, what the hell does it say?
What's better, counting calories or macros?
Oh, well.
I personally think macros. I think, again, it depends on the person. Sometimes I'll have them just do calories and protein because all the macros will just kind of overwhelm them. So in that case, I might say, hey, I want you to stay within 1,800 to 1,900 calories, kind of give them that ballpark range. But I like macros because if you look at food labels, they round. So does MyFitnessPal. So if I eat something that's 92 calories, it's 90 calories, or 96 is 100, right? Or they round up and down. So by the end of the day, my calories are never correct, even if my macros are super on point. So people get frustrated. So to me, I'm like, well, track macros and don't worry about calories because we know that macros are always on track. And then especially in the case of being flexible, if you go to a restaurant, if you eat something random that you don't know exactly what it is, they're always going to be a little bit off. Alcohol is never correct. Let's just track macros. Let's just stick to that ballpark and it'll just be way easier.
Great answer.
Yeah.
Well, dude, I appreciate your time, man.
Yeah.
Like I said, I could keep chatting with you all day. I really, really appreciate you coming on. I know your schedule's busy. So once again, it's BoomBoom Performance on Instagram, right? No, Cody.BoomBoom.
Yeah, that's the Instagram, and then boomboomperformance.com for everything else.
Check out the ebook.
Yeah.
And are you going to be in Scottsdale?
Yeah, I am. I will be there.
Sweet.
I'm not going to be there for there's a seminar right after the mastermind.
Oh yeah, the
Business
summit.
systems.
Yeah, I'm not going to be there. That's just too long away from the family, but I will be there for the mastermind.
Yeah,
for
he
sure.
did not plan that well. Get there, like leave Monday, come back Friday, like whatever. But I'll see you at the mastermind, dude.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to officially meeting you in person, and a lot of respect for you, a lot of admiration. If you guys are trying to be a coach, you don't know what you're doing, hit up Cody and get that book, Functional Muscle 2. And thank you again, man.
Thank
really,
you, Cody.
really appreciate you.
We know you're busy, and we appreciate your
Let
time.
me know if I can ever do anything for you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you guys having me on.
For sure.
Sweet.
Thanks, Cody.
Thanks, Cody.
See ya.
Absolutely, brother.